It's great to be here at TOA. I would like to ask you a question. What does nature really look like? When many of you hear the word nature, you might think of David Attenborough documentaries of furry creatures in Madagascar. But as of 1 month ago, we now have a completely new picture of nature. I'd like to share that with you. This is an image that was just published a month ago, and it is the first time that the whole biomass on Earth has been mapped. And these are all of the living organisms that are found in the Earth. It turns out that there are exactly 550 gigatons of carbon in all living organisms. Perhaps not exactly, but approximately. As you see on the left, it's mostly about the plants. 450 gigatons of carbon contained in plants on the Earth's surface. Then we have, for example, the bacteria, the fungi, and then this small little triangle that you can see on the right is the animals. 2 gigatons of carbon in all of the animals on Earth. If we blow up that bit, we see that really the animals are mostly beetles, woodlice, arthropods, so all of these kinds of creatures. But down here, we have something very interesting. We have wild mammals, and then we have the humans and the livestock, so all of the cattle and sheep and pigs and chickens. And it turns out that if you add up the humans and all of the livestock that we farm, you have 95% of all of the mammal and bird life on Earth. 95%. Only 5% is actually wild. So those David Attenborough documentaries are actually incredibly misleading. We have a false picture in our minds of the natural world. And it turns out that the most common bird in the world is actually the chicken. There are 25 billion chickens on the surface of this planet. So we need to really rethink our image of nature, of the living world. And in conjunction with this, and I hope this won't be too much of a downer after lunch, and what is the single greatest problem that we face as a species in the coming years and decades? So there are many, alas, very good candidates for this. Climate change, for example. Plastic in our oceans is a huge topic right now. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria, extremely important. Air pollution, artificial intelligence taking our jobs is a key topic also at this conference. But I would like to argue that, in fact, there is a greater challenge that we face. Many of you may remember in March the demise of Sudan, the last northern white rhinoceros in Kenya. He is survived by his daughter and granddaughter, and there is still an attempt to resuscitate the northern white rhinoceros through artificial insemination. But this is really emblematic of the situation we are living in. Mass extinction, I think the clue is in the name, is a pretty major challenge for us and for our planet. The Panamanian golden frog is one example. It was wiped out by a fungus called the chytrid fungus, which was actually spread by humans through air travel. So we are completely, inextricably intertwined with nature and with this question. The extinction rate for amphibians is now over 25,000 times the background extinction rate. Quite extraordinary. There is a really important book called The Sixth Extinction, written by Elizabeth Colbert, that I would really recommend that you read, which makes a very strong case for the idea that we are living right now in the midst of a sixth mass extinction event. And these are some of the examples of the threats for the different kingdoms of organisms. Right here in Germany, this is not a threat that is limited to tropical rainforests. So right here, just in November, people discovered that the number of insects in Germany has declined by 76% since 1989. So 3/4 of the insects by biomass have disappeared, even right here in Germany. So this is a problem that is very, very close to home. How do we go on without insects? Pollination, for example. There are cities in China where one hand pollinates pear trees because there are no bees left. And are we soon going to face similar situations here in Europe? It has been argued, perhaps dramatically, but maybe the drama is justified, that while the last mass extinction, the 5th mass extinction, was caused by a very large asteroid colliding with the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico about 65 million years ago and wiping out the dinosaurs, or at least the dinosaurs that didn't fly and later evolve into birds. In the 6th mass extinction, we are the asteroid. Weirdly enough, people don't really talk about this as much as one would expect. So this shows the discussion of climate change compared with the discussion of biodiversity in key media. So the green is actually discussions of biodiversity, and this is climate change discussion. Climate change is obviously a hugely important problem, but there's 8 times more discussion about climate change than about the biodiversity crash, and which I believe shows that we need to raise more of a discussion about this crucial issue for our time. How can we solve mass extinction? Well, clearly this is a problem that is highly complex, but nonetheless there exist many people who are considering it very carefully. This is one approach. George Church on the left is in a process. He's in Harvard University. He is attempting what is called de-extinction of the woolly mammoth. And he has claimed that by the middle of 2019, he will have viable woolly mammoth-like embryos incubated in an Asian elephant. De-extinction is getting a lot of discussion at the moment. People are looking at bringing back passenger pigeons, Tasmanian tigers, and a number of other previously extinct species. But de-extinction, in a way, misses the core problem. Because the core problem around the mass extinction that we are now experiencing is really around habitat loss, habitat destruction, rather than about bringing back a few mammoths. We really need to look at the loss of habitat, primarily caused by agriculture, but also other reasons, which is making these species disappear. And as Justin mentioned in the introduction, we will likely also be one of these species pretty soon if we don't do something about it. So there are other approaches. For example, E.O. Wilson, the famous ecologist, has a wonderful project called the Half-Earth Project, where he's attempting to actually preserve half of the Earth for non-humans. It's a very ambitious project, but an exciting project. We are creating a space in Munich, which is called BIOTOPIA. It's a museum, but also a forum and a platform for engagement with key issues around biodiversity. It's a key focus of it, and what I believe is a key challenge of our time is actually to create a sense of empathy with other species. How can we create a perspective shift that allows people to understand our relationship and the interplay between humans and other species in a new way? Our approach in Biotopia to this key challenge of creating this interspecies empathy is to look at the relationship between humans and other species on Earth through the lens of behavior. So what are the behaviors that we share with other species? Whether it's communicating, eating, sleeping, reproducing. How can we learn from other species? There's a raft of exciting new research on behavior happening at the moment. We have completely new insights into, for example, the mind of an octopus. There's a wonderful book called Other Minds about octopus intelligence. We have new insights into collective non-human behavior, collective behavior of all sorts of species, in part enabled by remote sensing and new technologies and digital tracking. And by looking at animal and human behavior, we have a chance to actually expand our intelligence, to expand our consciousness. Martin Wikelski is one of the leading researchers in this area. He works at the Max Planck Institute in Seewies and in Konstanz, and he has just launched his Icarus project into space on the International Space Station, which is the largest ever animal tracking project in the world. And this will give us completely new insights where animals shouldn't be just thought of in their own right, but almost as an extended consciousness for us all. So our key goal with BIOTOPIA as a museum, but also as a platform, is this very ambitious goal to reconfigure the relationship between humans and the other species with whom we share this planet. How can we reconfigure the relationship? The relationship is clearly broken, and it needs our full attention. We are creating BIOTOPIA in a ridiculously beautiful place, which is this Schloss in Munich called Schloss Nymphenburg, which also has 200 hectares of parkland around it and a beautiful botanic gardens. But BIOTOPIA is far more than just a building project. It has to be a shift in mindset, and we need your help. We need partners to engage with us and to help us on this journey as we look to create BIOTOPIA not just as a museum, but also as a platform. What technologies could help us to create a perspective shift between humans and other species so that one can see the world from the perspective of a mosquito or of a butterfly? This is where we need your help. So I would like to thank you, and I hope you will join us on this journey as we work to create BIOTOPIA and engage with this key issue of the sixth extinction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Could you? So we have some questions from the audience. You said that the amount of insects is down compared to earlier years. We're getting the question: do you see insects and bugs as a valid replacement for livestock in our daily food choice in order to reduce mass extinction? What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, insects are a source of diet in many countries around the world. I think I've eaten insects. I've enjoyed the experience. I don't think they're for everybody. So I think that many people think that one needs to make extreme life choices to change the situation. And I think the people who do that, it's great, veganism and so on. On the other hand, there are even simple changes so that, for example, when they say chicken or beef in the airplane, always say chicken. Chicken has issues around it, but in terms of how the chickens are looked after, but the environmental impact of chicken is far, far lower than the environmental impact of beef. So beef has a huge environmental footprint in terms of water use, land use, climate change impact, and so on. So I think there are easier choices. Eating insects may not be for everyone, but certainly as a food source of the future, there are exciting opportunities there.
And what other things can we do in our daily lives to help?
Yeah, well, I did mention that one of the key issues that is driving the mass extinction is around agriculture, land use. So a lot of decisions around what we eat, what we wear, and what we use for fuel are going to have a huge impact on that. So being more conscious about where your clothing comes from, where fuels are generated, and so on is a key source of impact. But what I would like to see is, particularly with all of the brains that are in this room, is I think reinventing agriculture is a defining challenge for us. How can we find new ways to think about agriculture? So I'm sure there are people in this room who can come up with incredible approaches to that.
And there's exciting stuff happening, like vertical farming and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Efficiency is really going up. So that's definitely a very exciting field.
Absolutely.
I very much agree with you. Now, we also have another question, which might be summarized as karma. And it is, why not accept mass extinction as a recurring normal event? The asteroids led to the rise of the humans.
Yeah, well, they don't recur that often. And 65 million years ago was the last one. Right. Should we choose to accelerate it or try and to pace it out? I mean, we are all ultimately going extinct, but there might be a more slow and graceful way to do it, as Paolo Antonelli of MoMA has said.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. That was great. Give him
Thank
another
you.
round of applause, please.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.